Progress.
तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा, dear fortunate souls doing Bhakti Shastri with VIH Vrindavan. We are discussing Nectar, we are discussing Shri Isha Upanishad, and we are in the verse number 8, which is the last verse of this section, that spiritual vision, by spiritual vision within the material object, events or persons, we can advance to know Ishwar. So in this verse there are certain terms which yesterday we have discussed, and these terms are in the verse. What are these terms? Akayam, no material body.
Kayam, Ashnaviram, Shuddham, Apapaviddham.
Right. So the English meaning of these all we know. Maybe the PPT from the beginning we can quickly cover the first para which we have covered. So somebody can display. Yes, this is the verse. And go to the next slide. What are the words? Yeah, these are the words. Everybody should know the meaning of these words. Not material body, akayam, omnipotent shukram, cannot be subjected to criticism, avarnam, no veins, ashnaviram, pure uncontaminated, shuddham, apapaviddham, kavi, omniscient, philosopher, manishi, greatest of all, paribhu, self-sufficient, swayambhu, who fulfill everyone's desires, yatha tatha yato arathan vidadha cha. Next. Now mantra 8 overview. The first and second para describe two words from the mantra. Akayam, which means unembodied. It means he never had a material body, because if we are embodied, then we will be disembodied. So he is neither embodied nor disembodied. He is unembodied. Means he has no material body. And the next word discussed in the two paragraph is Ashnaviram. He has no material veins. And the para number 2, which we discussed start today, to para number 3 and 4 is Shukram. He is omnipotent, all powerful. And then Srila Prabhupada discussed para number 5 and 6, Yatha Tathayo Artham, fulfiller of all desires. Para number 7 discussed Paribhu, supreme. Para number 8 discussed Swayambhu, and last para 8, the last part, Shuddham, Apapaviddham, antiseptic and prophylactic. Next. Now, this is we have discussed yesterday. This verse describes God as Akayam, and then Asnaviram. If God has no body, why there is a need to describe that He has no wings? So the Sri Ishopanishad wants us to rise to the higher understanding that God has a special kind of body that has no wings. So then there is a comparison given for reason for a common body of the embodied souls. The body is separate than soul, is a product of karma, it degrades by desires, and it has to be given up. Next, the body of the Supreme Lord. Next, none of these apply to the God's transcendental Satchitanand Vigraha, whose body and soul are non-different, who has no karmic past, who is never degraded, whose body is eternal. Then why Mayavadis say that Krishna has a material body? Because we tend to superimpose our material conception on God. The scripture sometimes use negative words like akayam to emphasize that God does not have any body like ours. Next. Difference between our material body and the God's spiritual form. Material forms are temporary, so attraction to them leads only to eventual frustration. But God's form is eternal, so attraction to His form leads to ultimate fulfillment. The negative scripture statement that God doesn't have a form like ours save us from frustration. And the positive scriptural statement leads us to fulfillment, means God has a form. Next. Now this is the word in this is most important word which is discussed from Chaitanya Charitamrita is logic. Anuman. Anuman means logic. Shishya kahe Ishwar Tattva Sadhe Anuman. The disciple is saying, can the Ishwar or Supreme Controller can be understood by logic? Acharya kahe, the spiritual master says, Anuman nahi Ishwar Gyan. By logic you cannot know about the Supreme Lord. So there are two hypotheses, logical one. Mayavadi philosophers in particular make certain hypotheses about the absolute truth. They reason that in material world we experience that everything is created. If we trace the history of anything, we find a creator. Therefore, there must be a creator of this huge cosmic manifestation. By such reasoning, they come to the conclusion that the higher power has created this cosmic manifestation. Mayavadis do not accept the great power of a person. Their brain cannot accommodate the fact that the huge cosmic manifestation can be created by a person. They doubt this because as soon as they think of a person, they think of a person within material world with limited potency. Next hypothesis. Hypothesis 2. Logical. Sometimes Mayavadi philosopher will accept Lord Krishna, Lord Ram as Bhagavan, but they think of the Lord as a person having material body. The Mayavadis do not understand that Supreme Personality God and Krishna as a spiritual body. They think of Krishna as great personality, a human being, within whom there is supreme impersonal power, Brahma. Therefore, they finally conclude that impersonal Brahma is the supreme, not the personality of Krishna. This is the basis of Mayavadi philosophy. Next. Now we are coming to the para number 2. So anybody has any question till now? These two paragraphs we read yesterday. So somebody can start reading paragraph number 2.
Very good.
Paragraph. Yes, paragraph number 2. Yes.
In the Brahma Samhita, there is a similar description of the body of the Supreme Lord. He is described there as the Sat Chit Anand Vigraha. This means that he is the eternal form, fully representing transcendental existence, knowledge and bliss. The Vedic literature states clearly that he has a completely different kind of transcendental body, and thus he is sometimes described as formless. This formlessness means that he has no form like ours, or that he is devoid of a form which we can perceive. In the Brahma Samhita, it is further said that the Lord can do anything and everything with any one of the parts of his body. It is said there that with each and every one of the parts of his body, such as hand, he can do the work of the other senses. This means that the Lord can walk with his hands, he can accept a thing by his legs, he can see by his hands and feet, and he can eat by his eyes. In the Shruti mantras, it is said that he has no hands and no legs like us, but that he has a different type of hand and leg, by which he can accept all that we offer him and walk faster than anyone anywhere. These things are confirmed in the mantra of Sri Ishopanishad by the use of the words like omnipotent.
Okay, so this para number 2 is speaking omnipotent. In our slide, this mantra of the Shruti is given. You see Shruti mantra in our slide. Apanipado javano grahita pashyati chakshusya shrunoti akaranaha saveti vedyam nacha tasyasti veta tamaho agarayam purusham mahantam. Yes, Svetashwara Upanishad. He has no feet or hand, yet he is the swiftest runner and can grasp anything. Though without eyes and ears, he sees and hears. Nobody knows him, yet he is the knower and object of knowledge. Sages describe him as the supreme, original personality of Godhead. So this is omnipotent Lord. Now, we are going to the next para. And what is the next para? Archa Vigraha. So for this, let us see this slide and see our vision. Go to this slide. Object, vision, consequences and example. You have this slide. Can somebody read what is the object number 1?
Material.
And vision?
Material.
Then consequence?
Bondage.
Bondage. An example?
People get attracted to sense objects.
So this is the common world. We see people, we see them material, we don't see them as a soul, and therefore we are bound to them by false relation, and then we want to enjoy them. Okay? As the home, whatever you think like that. If we think it's a temple, then it is spiritual. If you think it is a home for our enjoyment, then we are bound to it. Now object number 2. Object is material. Vision is spiritual. Then purification. Which principle? Utility is principle. Like we are using now computer and microphone and internet for our classes. All are material, but we are using for Ishopanishad, which is spiritual. So this is purifying us. So spiritual seeing is, so Srila Prabhupada, so this is how the example of this is, Srila Prabhupada seeing flatbed truck for Rath Yatra. In 67 he saw some truck with a flat bed, and then he thought, oh, it is good for the Jagannath Rath Yatra, because there was no cart, so he used this for the service of Jagannath. So material thing used for the spiritual purpose. Now see the third object, Read somebody. Object is spiritual. Read.
Spiritual. Vision is material.
Yeah. The vision is material. Then is the offense. Like yes, adultery vision of the Jewish rabbi. Anyway, this is, I don't know what it means, but if the deity in a temple we think it is a marble, this is offense. Because this section, when we read the paragraph, it says deity worship is not ordinary. It is a spiritual. Now, go to the last. Spiritual object, spiritual vision, purification for the neophyte, and ecstasy for the advanced. Example, deity in the temple for the Vaishnava is for purification and for ecstasy. So, how we should see the material object with a spiritual vision? There are two examples here. That should be our vision, not the two one. Material, spiritual material is wrong. Very famous verse in Padma Purana. Deity you think is stone, spiritual master you think ordinary person, then it is a offense. So now somebody should read the third paragraph quickly. This third paragraph is mostly discussing Archa Vigraha particularly, and then some particular point of Ishopanishad. Okay.
Right.
The Lord's worshipable form, Archa Vigraha, which is installed in temples by authorized acharyas who have realized the Lord in terms of Mantra 7, is non-different from the original form of the Lord. The Lord's original form is that of Sri Krishna, and Sri Krishna expands himself into an unlimited number of forms, such as Baladev, Rama, Narsimha and Varaha. All these forms are one and the same personality of Godhead. Similarly, the Archa Vigraha worshipped in temples is also an expanded form of the Lord. By worshipping the Archa Vigraha, one can at once approach the Lord, who accepts the service of a devotee by his omnipotent energy. The Archa Vigraha of the Lord descends at the request of the Acharyas, the Hubli teachers and works.
The word omnipotent is the verse in the verse Shukaram. Shukar. The Shukar word is explained by this verse that Lord is omnipotent. Even from the deity form he accepts all services of a devotee. So this word omnipotent is from our verse Shukram. Okay. Continue. Yes.
The Archa Vigraha of the Lord descends at the request of the Acharyas, the holy teachers, and works exactly in the original way of the Lord by virtue of the Lord's omnipotence. Foolish people who have no knowledge of Sri Ishopanishad or of any of the other Shruti mantras consider the Archa Vigraha, which is worshipped by pure devotees, to be made of material elements. This form may be seen as material by the imperfect eyes of foolish people or Kanishta Adhikaris. But such people do not know that the Lord, being omnipotent and omniscient, can transform matter into spirit and spirit into matter as he desires.
Okay, now because Isho Upanishad and then Prabhupada writes in Shruti mantra also. So we have in our slide next Shruti mantra. Paragraph 3, Nattasya Pratima. Just Pratima means actually the image. So now we are trying to understand Archa Vigraha in a little more depth. Swetavastara Upanishad says 4:19, Nainam urdhvam na trashcham na madhya parijagrabhat na tasya pratima asti yasya nama mahad yashaha. No one can grasp him. above, across, or in middle. There is no likeness of him. There is no likeness of him. His name, no likeness of him means nobody is like him. His name is great glory. Nat tasya pratima, Baldev Vidya Bhushan's translation, nothing can compare with the transcendental form of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now there are two hypotheses on the back. Go to the next slide. Says two kinds of symbolism. Ascending symbolism means that we ascribe our concrete, tangible symbol of an abstract concept. For example, flag of a nation is ascending symbol for the concept of nationhood. Some people feel that deity is similarly a symbol of God. Devotional feeling can be evoked more easily by beholding the deity than by thinking of concept of God. Is deity worship ascending symbol? Next slide. Question. In ascending symbolism, we, by our imagination, project upward to God. We ascribe some symbol to him. For example, some company logos. They can change. Where there is an artificial, mentally constructed connection between the symbol and the symbolized, doesn't work for the person. Bhakti Vedanta, book trust, photos. Deity of the Supreme Being is much than photo of an ordinary human being. A person's photo, some very popular person, some photo. This cannot be compared to the deity. Deity can be called an example of descending symbol, not ascending symbol. So we are coming to deity, deity an example of descending symbol. Descending symbolism. Can somebody read what is there in your slide? You got it?
No, Prabhu.
Yes, deity an example of descending symbolism. Read.
Lord is personally presented to reciprocate our love with his blessings. Descending symbols is that, unlike ascending symbols, can be changed at will or whimsy. God has his own form, and only the deity that depicts his form is to be worshipped.
So the deity form is not ascending symbol, it is a descending symbol. Ascending symbol can be changed by will. Company can change their symbol. Even our ISKCON symbol we have changed. Earlier symbol and after centennial we have changed. But Krishna in any temple is not changed. Krishna may be in any temple of the world, but he says image is same. So this is most important part of this. Now we are going to the paragraph number 5, say 5 and 6. Now Srila Prabhupada in paragraph number 4 is describing those who don't accept Supreme Lord's form as transcendental. So he is condemning them, Prabhupada. Somebody should read this, paragraph number 4.
In the Bhagavad Gita 9, 11, 12, the Lord regrets the moral tradition of men with little knowledge who tried him because he descended like a man into this world. Such poorly informed person do not know the omnipotence of the Lord. Thus the Lord does not manifest himself in a full to the mental spectrum. It can be appreciated only by only proportion to one's surrender to Him. The fallen condition of the living mentality is due to entirely to forgetfulness of their relationship with the God.
So these two verses which are quoted are Avajananti mam mudha manusham tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mambhuta maheshwaram moghasha moga karmano moga jnana vichetsa raksasim ashrim chaiva yonim ashrita. These are the two verses which are actually for Mayavadis in 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Now we are going to the next para 5 and 6, which is the characteristic of Lord Yatha Tathayo Artham, fulfiller of desires, which is the last word in the verse. Now you see the slide. You see the slide. You got the slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, not is net. After that, next one. Okay, next. Yes. Now God, fulfiller of desire. Yatha tathayo artham. Now, imperishable reciprocal supplier. So Lord is imperishable and reciprocal supplier. So what is needed to get our desire fulfilled by God? Two things. We must be qualified, and then God must bestow His mercy to fulfill our desire. Then Prabhupada has given the example of judge. Somebody may have done LLB, a law. He may have done the law degree, but he should be appointed by higher authority as a judge. It is not that by his own qualification he become judge. You can have a qualification, but still there is a higher authority that will accept and award you the post or the reward. The another example given, which is not in our book, is from Bhagavatam, and this is the verse. Go to the next slide. This is the verse. Balasya nehe sharanam pitro narsimha nartasya chagadam udanvati majato nauha tapasya tata pratividhi cha ihanjaseshta tavad vibhotano bhritam tvada upekshitanam. The mother and father are not the protection for their child. They want to protect, but ultimately they are not. Medicine is not protection of a sick person. A boat not a remedy for a person drowning in the ocean. Though they are all favorable for it, but if God doesn't sanction, they won't work. For those who do not accept you, the remedies except by suffering people in this world are not a shelter at all. The summary of the verse is that without you, no remedy for suffering is successful. The mother and father are not the protection of their child. Medicine is not protection of sick person. And boat is not a remedy for a person drowning in the ocean. So every mother father wants to protect their children, but ultimately if God don't really award, then it is not possible. Similarly, the medicine doctor is giving, but still people are dying because the medicine won't work if God don't allow. And similarly, boat is there in the ocean, but A person who has to drown, he can be on the boat and still he can fall and drown. So the concept is, go to the next slide. Yeah, this is it. There are two Vada. Vada means philosophies. Karmavad. This Karmavad is everything is in my hand. I will do. And another is called Devavad. Everything will come by destiny. I shall just sleep and enjoy. Everything will become automatically. Both are wrong. Both are wrong. We should be endeavoring and requesting Lord, and Lord should bestow His mercy also according to our qualification. So these two words are not actually correct. So for that, these are the two verses. Shri Prahlad Vacha Matir na Krishna Parata Swato Va Mitho Abhipadyayat Graha Vartanam Adant Gobhir Vistam Tamisram Punah Punas Charvita. This is the verse in our book Prabhupada is given in a purport. So Prahlad replied, somebody can read this? Prahlad replied.
Prahlad replied, for those attached to household life who enter
Grahavartanam,
who enter hell, Vishan, Tamishran, by uncontrolled senses, Adanta Gobiha, and chew what has been chewed already, Punah Charvita Charvananam. In inclination to the Lord, Krishna Matirna does not arise abhipadayate either by others' influence, Bharata in one's own effort, Swatava, or by the combination of both Nitaha.
So without God, there is no possibility to know God. Now the next verse says, Nate vidho swartha gatim hi vishnum durashashya bahi artha maninaha andha yatha andha upaniyamanat te apisha tantriyam urudami bandha. So having evil heart and thinking that sense enjoyment has value, they do not know that the valuable goal is Vishnu. Just as blind man leads other blind men into ditch, bound by ropes of Vedic instruction on the rituals, and binding others in the same way, they will fall in dark well of material existence. So, go to the one more slide, then we'll read our purport and go to the next quickly. Okay, then we'll go. Oh, this is ending here. Let us read our purport. Go to the paragraph number 5. Somebody should read paragraph number 5.
In this mantra, as well as in many other Vedic mantras, it is clearly stated that the Lord has been supplying goods to the living entities from time immemorial. A living being desires something and the Lord supplies the object of that desire in proportion to one's qualification.
Yeah, this is important. In proportion to one's qualification. Yes, okay.
If a man wants to be a high court judge, he must acquire not only the necessary qualifications but also the consent of the authority, who can award the title of the high court judge. The qualifications in themselves are insufficient for one to occupy the post. It must be awarded by some superior authority. Similarly, the Lord awards enjoyment to living entities in proportion to their qualifications. But good qualifications in themselves are not sufficient to enable one to receive awards. The mercy of the Lord is also required.
Okay, I think, well, it's not here, but generally in a Damodar Leela is a transcendental, but just you see, Yashoda is doing all endeavor, and then Krishna's mercy is there, then Krishna is actually bound. So the devotee must be endeavoring in his sadhana and qualifying, then Krishna will bestow his mercy, then we will actually advance in our spiritual life. So actually this is not a material concept, it is a spiritual concept. We should do our practice of devotional service sincerely and qualify ourselves to get the Krishna, love of God, Krishna, but it can only be given when Krishna becomes merciful, not by our own endeavor only. So this is a personal application of this concept. Now this is about the Prahlad Maharaj and something else. You come down. Yes. Next paragraph.
Ordinarily, the living being does not know what to ask from the Lord, nor which course to seek. When the living being comes to know his constitutional position, however, he asks to be accepted into the transcendental association of the Lord in order to render transcendental loving service unto him. Unfortunately, living beings under the influence of material nature ask for many other things, and they are described in Bhagavad Gita 2.41 as having divided or splayed intelligence.
1 minute. So 1 minute. So what is discussed here is, though we have desire, but we don't know what we should desire. So what is the right desire? To be associate of Lord. It means to go back to the Supreme Lord Krishna and become his associate as a servant or as a friend or so. But people has not one focused intelligence. So this verse of the Bhagavad Gita is Vivasayatmika buddhi eke kurunandana bahu sakhaya anantas buddhyo avavisainam. Those who have firm determination, one-pointed intelligence, they can be successful. But those whose intelligence is multifaceted, divided into the many different, they will never become successful. Srila Prabhupada read this verse in Bhagavad Gita and purported by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that Vivasaya Atmika Buddhi or one-pointed intelligence means firm conviction in the words of his spiritual master. And he was so much focused and fixed that he established ISKCON. So this verse 241 is actually the seed for ISKCON Society's establishment by Srila Prabhupada. So this verse is Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi, very important verse. Now Srila Prabhupada is quoting Bhagavatam, which we discussed. Yeah, I quickly read this and then we go to the next.
Spiritual intelligence is one, but mundane intelligence is diverse. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.30 till 31, it is stated that those who are captivated by the temporary beauties of the external energy forget the real aim of life, which is to go back to Godhead. Forgetting this, one tries to adjust things by various plans and programs. But this is like chewing that has already been chewed. Nonetheless, the Lord is so kind that he allows the forgetful living entity to continue in this way without interference. Thus, this mantra of Sri Ishapanishad uses the very appropriate word Yathatha Yatha, indicating that the Lord rewards the living entities just in pursuance of their desires. If a living being wants to go to hell, the Lord allows him to do so without interference. And if he wants to go back home, back to Godhead, the Lord helps him.
Okay, so this is the which characteristic of the mantra is described in this paragraph. Lord fulfill everyone's desire according to qualification, right? Yatha tatha yataha. Now the next paragraph is describing the Paribhu, the greatness of the Lord. Paribhu qualification. Somebody should read quickly.
God is described here as Paribhu, the greatest of all. No one is greater than or equal to him. Other living beings are described here as beggars who ask from the Lord, and the Lord supplies their desirables. If other entities were equal to the Lord in potency, or if they were omnipotent or omniscient, there would be no question of begging from the Lord, even for so-called liberation.
Okay, wait a minute.
The real liberation
Wait
of the
a
living
minute. Wait a minute. This paragraph is like these Gyanis. They think we are also Brahm. There's no difference between me and God. Then why they are asking for liberation? So Srila Prabhupada is speaking here, same concept of Yatha Tathya, everybody is a beggar and God is a supplier. But then he is pointing out the Mayavadi and impersonalists that they think we are God. But why they are then asking for liberation from God? If they are God, then why they are not liberated on their own? So even they are asking for liberation, what to speak of other things. Okay, next.
The real liberation of the living being is to go back to Godhead. Otherwise, liberation as conceived by the impersonalists remains, and the begging business for sense gratification has to continue eternally, unless the beggar comes to his senses and realizes his constitutional position.
So what Srila Prabhupada writes in the letter, the impersonalist liberation is myth. And then he says, and begging for sense gratification has continue eternally, unless, eternally means he will come in life, he will continue in cycle of birth and death. Until unless the beggar comes to his spiritual senses and realize the concept that I am the servant of Krishna and I must serve Krishna. Now the last paragraph, which describe the purifying Shuddham, Apavidya Shuddham, Apapap, these two things, antiseptic and prophylactic. So read this. Oh, it's still this self-sufficient. Now the subject matter, character of the mantra, which is called Swayambhu. In a mantra there is the word Swayambhu, right? That is described in this paragraph. Read this paragraph.
Only the Supreme Lord is self-sufficient. When Lord Krishna appeared on earth 5,000 years ago, he displayed his full manifestation as personality of Godhead through his various activities. In his childhood, he killed many powerful demons such as Aghasura, Bakasura and Shakatasura. And there was no question of his having acquired such power through any extraneous endeavor. He lifted Govardhana hill without ever practicing weightlifting. He danced with gopis without social restriction and without reproach.
Yeah, this is another characteristic in the our mantra for reproach. What is that characteristic? Find out reproach. Avaranium is there. Is unreproachable. Okay.
Although the gopis approach him with a paramour's feeling of love, the relationship between the gopis and Lord Krishna was worshipped even by Lord Chaitanya, who was a strict sannyasi and rigid follower of disciplinary regulations. To confirm that, the Lord is always pure and uncontaminated. Sri Ishopanishad described him as Shuddham, antiseptic, and Apavidam.
Okay, wait. So, for that we have a last slide, that the purifying effect of hearing of Rasa Leela. Can you see this verse, which is actually the blessing of hearing or reading Rasa Leela? Vikritam vrajavadubhi idam cha Vishnu Sharadha navito anushrunyad atha varanyedaya Bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabhya kamam hridayarogam asha apahinoti achirena dhira. Anyone who faithfully hears and describes the Lord's playful affairs with young gopis of the Vrindavan will attend the Lord's pure devotional service. Thus he will quickly become sober and conquer lust, the disease of the heart. So, all activities of Lord are purifying. Now there are two words are described. Antiseptic means when there is some bacteria, we apply some ointment or some liquid to kill that is called antiseptic. And prophylactic means to prevent ourselves from disease, we increase our immunity and use something that we will not, just like you use the sun cream that you will not get sunburn, is a prophylactic. So, say Supreme Lord has these two qualities, antiseptic and prophylactic. Shuddham means antiseptic. It means it purifies the impurities. And apap vidham means once you come in contact with Krishna, you cannot do any sinful activities. You are immune to sinful activities, antiseptic. Now you complete this paragraph, and there's an example given of purifying of the sun. Okay, complete this.
It's antiseptic in the sense that even an impure thing can become purified just by touching him. The word prophylactic refers to the power of his association. As mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9:30-31, a devotee may appear to be sudurachara, not well behaved in the beginning, but he should be accepted as pure because he is on the right path. This is due to the prophylactic nature of the Lord's association. The Lord is also apapa vidham because sin cannot touch him. Even if he acts in a way that appears to be sinful, such actions are all good, for there is no question of his being affected by sin. Because in all circumstances, he is Shuddham, most purified. He is often compared to the sun. The sun extracts moisture from many untouchable places on the earth, yet it remains pure. In fact, it purifies obnoxious things by virtue of its sterilizing powers. If the sun, which is a material object, is so powerful, then we can hardly begin to imagine the purifying strength of all-powerful Lord.
So, these two verses of Bhagavad Gita are Api cheta suduracharo bhajate ananya bhak sadhurev sa mantavya kshipram vivasto isa kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashva shantim nigacchati konte prajani name bhakta pranashyati. These are the two verses quoted. That is the antiseptic power of the Supreme Lord, and purifying part is the word used here by Srila Prabhupada. This next word used by Srila Prabhupada is antiseptic and sterilizing. Sterilizing means killing all the germs. So we have finished this section. Now we are going to the next section. And the next section from verse number 9 to 12. So till this time we have only described in this certain characteristic of Supreme Lord. Anybody has any question or comment?
Prabhu, just now as we read, it says that as mentioned in Bhagavad, a devotee may appear to be sudurachara, or not well behave in the beginning, but he should be accepted as pure because he's on the right path. So that means he should be accepted as pure on which place? That means when he first started, or interim, or after he becomes a devotee, a pure devotee.
This is the question Arjuna asked. He should be accepted pure in the pure part and impure in the impure part, and Krishna become angry. He said no. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma. In a moment he will be purified. Declare it boldly that my devotee never perish, because I protect him. Because I am provider. I am with him, so he is immune to the sense. This is accidental fall down. This verse has 3 commentaries by our acharyas. When you come to 9th chapter, then you can relish this. Conservative commentary, liberal commentary, and Rasik commentary. So here Srila Prabhupada has used this verse as a Krishna as prophylactic, association of Krishna as a prophylaxis, means preventing from disease of material fall down. Is it okay? Yes, we can go to the next section. We are reading verse number 9. Andham tamaha pravishanti ye avidyanupasate tato bhuya evate tamo yato vidyavan rataha. Very interesting, difficult to understand Upanishad words. Those who engage in the culture of nescient activities, ye avidyam upasate, it means those who worship the ignorance, shall enter into the darkest region of the ignorance. Andham tamaha pravishtam, go to the hell. Worse still than those, tato bhuya evate tamo, engage in culture of so-called knowledge. Ye tu vidyavan rataha, they show that they are knowledgeable, but they are so-called knowledge. They are worse than that. Say ignorant is bad, but the half knowledge is worst. That is the meaning of this mantra. So mantra 4 to 8 spoke of to develop spiritual vision, to realize the Ishwar. Now, a part of developing the spiritual vision is to cultivate the right knowledge, vidya, and the right upasana, worship. Right knowledge is dealt in mantra 9 to 11. And right upasana is dealt in mantra 12 to 14. So in this section we will discuss what is right knowledge and what is wrong knowledge, vidya and avidya. Now you go to the next slide. Isha Upanishad, flow of the Isha Upanishad. Mantra 2 and 3. Consequences of living in harmony and disharmony with the Ishavasya principle. Mantra 9 to 11 and 11 to 14 elaborate on the same theme. Same theme means harmony means right knowledge and right upasana, and disharmony means wrong knowledge and wrong upasana. So same point is elaborated. Is it okay? This is the flow of Isha Upanishad. Go to the next slide. Now these two words in all three verses, 9, 10, 11 has same word, vidya, avidya, but the meaning is different. Avidya takes to darkness and vidya to the greatest darkness. This is number 9. The theme of this verse which we are going to discuss is avidya takes to darkness and vidya to greater darkness. The theme of the verse number 10 will be, which we will discuss tomorrow, vidya gives one result and avidya gives another result. And the verse 11, which we may start tomorrow, so Krishna Balaram desire, vidya and avidya together grant immortality. So this is the theme of this section. Now here we are giving you insight of these terms in 3 verses. Why Upanishads are difficult to understand? You have this slide on the screen? You have this slide on the screen?
Yes, Maharaj.
Why Upanishads are difficult to understand? See, the meaning of the avidya and vidya is different. Verse number 9, avidya is ignorant pursuit of sense gratification. And vidya is knowledge of pursuing sense gratification. Verse number 10, avidya is knowledge of pursuit of sense gratification. Same. The knowledge, it is avidya is knowledge. And vidya is knowledge of pursuit of Krishna consciousness. Different meaning. Verse number 11, knowledge for bodily maintenance. Avidya means knowledge for bodily maintenance. And vidya means knowledge of pursuit of Krishna consciousness. So there is a difference of the meaning of vidya and avidya in all 3 mantras. Next slide. Verse 9. Vidya means so-called knowledge. And avidya means ignorance. Verse number 10. Vidya means devotional knowledge. Avidya means ignorance and so-called knowledge. Verse number 11. Vidya means devotional knowledge. Avidya means material knowledge essential for living in material world. So these are the different meanings of the word vidya and avidya in 3 mantras. Now mantra 9 overview. What is in the purport of mantra 9 which we are discussing today? Paragraph number 1. Why vidya is greater harmful than avidya? Why vidya is more harmful or dangerous than avidya or ignorance? It means why so-called material education is more dangerous than ignorance. Para number 2, 3, 4 describe avidyam upasate, those who worship the ignorance. They are in fool's paradise. And the last 4 to 9 section, vidyam rataha means so-called knowledgeable people. And there are 3 categories in that. So what we will see here in para number 4 is godless modern education, godless materialists. 5 to 8 we see the Vedavad Rataha, religious materialists. They are Vidyavan Rataha, Vidyayam Rataha. And the 3rd category, which is in the last paragraph, Maya Apahirta Jnanaha, which means Mayavadi. So this is the breakdown of our mantra. Now read the first paragraph.
In this mantra, there is a comparative study of vidya and avidya. Avidya or ignorance is undoubtedly dangerous, but vidya or knowledge, when mistaken or misguided, is even more dangerous. In modern human civilization, this explanation of Sri Upanishad is more applicable than any other time in the past. Modern civilization has advanced considerably in the matter of mass education, and yet the result is that people are more unhappy than before on account of too much stress on material advancement, without any taste for the most important aspect of life, the spiritual aspect.
Okay, so this is a para number 1, right?
You are muted, Prabhu.
Yeah, this is para number 1. What is in this para number 1 is the ignorance is definitely bad, but the so-called misdirected knowledge is worst and more dangerous. And now see our slide on page number 1, for slide for page number 1. Why Vidya, which means so-called knowledge, misdirected knowledge, is more harmful than ignorance. Material advancement has led to stress, depression, suicide, addiction. Comfortable life, but comfortably miserable. Example, farmer is sweating in the field, but the software worker sitting in an air condition is also sweating because of his stress. So comfortable life but uncomfortably miserable. Guided missiles, we have guided machines but misguided men. We have controlled machine but uncontrolled minds. So these are the dangerous part of the knowledge of a modern civilization, which completely take us away from the spiritual pursuit of the soul, which is the ultimate benefit for the soul. So this is based on our first paragraph. Now we are going to the next paragraph, which says, paragraph 2 to 4, Avidyam upasati. And definition of avidya Srila Prabhupada is giving. Remember this definition of avidya. Everybody must remember this. Forgetfulness of Ishavasya principle. Now somebody can tell me what is Ishavasya principle? What is Ishavasya principle?
Everything belongs to God.
And
He is the proprietor, maintainer, sustainer, and the...
Yes. And we should only take our share, which is allotted according to our karma, and yes, not encroach on others' property. This is the whole mantra, but you said rightly, he is proprietor and he is the owner of everything, controller of everything. And this is true knowledge. So avidya is forgetfulness of Ishavasya. Principle is avidya. In our purport, this is the word written. The next word, which is most important in our purport, is the profitless pursuit of sense gratification is the worship of avidya. Profitless pursuit of sense gratification is worship of avidya or ignorance. Now read the para number 2.
Please break this line, the profitless pursuit of sense gratification.
Yeah, now read the purport, then we will come to this.
As far as the Vidya is concerned, the first mantra has explained very clearly that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything and that forgetfulness of this fact is ignorance.
Right? This is the most important line to remember. The mantra 9 avidya means forgetfulness of the Ishavasya principle. Right? Now go to the next line.
The more a man forgets this fact of life, the more he is in the darkness. In view of this, a godless civilization directed toward the so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization in which the masses of people are less educated.
Next paragraph. Yeah, start next paragraph.
Of the different classes.
Yes.
Of the different classes of men, karmis, jnanis and yogis, the karmis are those who are engaged in the activities of sense gratification. In the modern civilization, 99.9% of the people are engaged in the activities of sense gratification under the flags of industrialism, economic development, altruism, political activism and so on. All these activities are more or less based on satisfaction of these senses to the exclusion of the kind of God consciousness described in the first mantra.
All these activities are more or less based on the satisfaction of senses to the exclusion of the kind of God consciousness based on the first mantra, which means Ishavasya principle. So this all is avidya. Now you go to the next paragraph. Next. Who read now? What is your name, Prabhu?
Kishore Mukunda, Prabhu.
Okay, Kishore Mukunda.
In the language of Bhagavad Gita 7:15, people who are engaged in gross sense gratification are moodas, asses. The ass is a symbol of stupidity. Those who simply engage in the profitless pursuit of sense gratification are
okay, this is the line.
Avidya.
This is the line which we have given there. Now read this line again.
Those who simply engage in the profitless pursuit of sense gratification are worshipping avidya. According to Sri Ishopanishad,
this is the end of the line. According to Sri Ishopanishad, who are worshipping avidya. This is the language. So verse number 715. Anybody can remember this verse? Yeah. Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradamaha maya paharta jnanam ashurim yonim apna. Yeah, these are the four. They are actually profitless pursuance of the sense gratification. All modern educational way and all these people, they are worshipping ignorance, which is profitless because ultimately there is no profit to the soul. Yeah, finish this paragraph, then we can see few slides.
And those who play the role of helping this sort of civilization in the name of educational advancement are actually doing more harm than those who are on the platform of gross sense gratification. The advancement of learning by godless people is as dangerous as a valuable jewel on the hood of a cobra.
Analogy.
A cobra.
Yeah. The analogy. Okay, but the modern educated people are like a cobra. Then ordinary, then they are more dangerous. Okay.
A cobra decorated with a valuable jewel is more dangerous than one not decorated. In the Haribhakti Sudodaya 3:11-12, the advancement of education by godless people is compared to decorations on a deadly body. In India, as in many other countries, some people follow the custom of leading a procession with a decorated dead body for the pleasure of the lamenting relatives. In the same way, modern civilization is a patchwork of activities meant to cover the perpetual miseries of material existence. All such activities are aimed towards sense gratification, but above the senses is the mind, and above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul. Thus, the aim of the real education should be self-realization, realization of the spiritual values of the soul. Any education which does not lead to such realization must be considered avidya or nescience. And to culture sense nescience means to go down to the darkest region of ignorance.
Okay, now go to the slide. Modern godless education, para number 4. To be in ignorance is bad. To be in ignorance and to claim to be in knowledge is worse. For example, non-theistic scientist. To be in ignorance and claim to be in knowledge and to condemn real knowledge as ignorance is worst. Atheistic philosophers. So they are more dangerous than the other. Now the next is a verse given from Hari Bhakti Sudodhya, which is quoted here. Or now this is, go to the next slide. This says, higher are bhaktas, below that is jnani, below that is karamkandi, below that is religious materialistics, below that is karmis, and below that is non-religious materialistic. This is the hierarchy in a modern society. Bhaktas are the highest. They are with a knowledge or vidya. They follow the Ishavasa principle and they utilize the science of the soul for awakening the love of God. Jnanis, there are two types, Mayavadis and Brahmavadis, but at least they are spiritual. Karmakandis, they only want to go to the heaven or enjoy on the material platform. Religious materialists are Vedavadis. They read Vedas, but they use it for material pursuit only. Karmis are ordinary people, just earning and enjoying. Non-religious materialistics are the atheistic people. Now this is the verse, next verse is a verse of Hari Bhakti Sudodhya. Bhagavat Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japas Tapah Apranasya eva Dehasya Mandanam Loka Ranjanam. If one is born in a high family like the Brahman, Kshatriya or Vaishya, but is not a devotee of the Lord, all his good qualifications are as a Brahman, Kshatriya and Vaishya are null and void. Indeed, they are considered decoration of a dead body. So all the material education of modern world, if there is no good use of that in pursuit of the knowledge of the soul and the science of love of God, that all is decoration of a dead body. So now we are going to the para number 5 to 8 section. But anybody has any question or comment? Bhakti Vinod Thakur said this thing which Prabhupada has written here. The less educated people are less harmful. More educated people are more harmful. Harmful to the soul. You say even in the villages people are still God conscious, but in the cities highly educated people with corporate world are completely godless. So actually modern education Prabhupada used to call slaughterhouse, because they kill the soul. They kill the consciousness of advanced human civilization's use of human life. But the modern education, Prabhupada also says, PhD of a modern man to preach Krishna consciousness is more useful than a ordinary sannyas. So all the modern education, if used in Krishna consciousness, then seeing the material things with a spiritual vision, it's okay. Now we are going to the second subject matter of this verse, Vedvad Rataha. Vedvad means philosophy of Ved. Rata means only attached to the philosophy, not to the purpose of the Veda philosophy. And Srila Prabhupada has quoted two verses, one from the second chapter 42 and 43, which says, Ye pushpitam vacham pravadanti panditaha Vedavada rataha partha nanyadastiti vadina kamatmana swargapara janma kalpalpadan kriya vishesh bahulam bhogeshwara gatim prati. And the next two verses are quoted from the 9th chapter. Tetang bhuktva swarga lokam vishalam khina punya mrityulokam vishanti evam traidharmam anuparpana kadagatam kama kama labhanti. So this is the subject matter which we will discuss now. So read the next verse. Or next paragraph, sorry. Start next paragraph.
According to the Bhagavad Gita, mistaken 2.42, 7.15, mistaken mundane educators are known as Vedavadarata and Mayaya Prahita Jnana.
So 242 is Vedavadarata and 715 is Maya Parth Jnana.
They may also be atheistic demons, the lowest of men. Those who are Vedavadarata pose themselves as very learned in the Vedic literature, but unfortunately they are completely diverted from the purpose of Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita 15.15, it is said that the purpose of the Vedas is to know the personality of Godhead, but these Vedavadarata men are not at all interested in the personality of Godhead. On the contrary, they are fascinated by such fruitive results as the attainment of heaven.
Okay, so these are the two. It means now one is a modern education, which is avidya. Second avidya is Vedavadarata, and third avidya is Maya Parth Jnana. So I read one more paragraph, then we'll see. Yeah, somebody should read one more paragraph.
As stated in Mantra 1, we should know that personality of Godhead is the proprietor of everything, and that we must be satisfied with our allotted portions of the necessities of life. The purpose of all Vedic literature is to awaken this God consciousness in the forgetful living being. And this same purpose is presented in various ways in the different scriptures of the world for the understanding of the foolish mankind. Thus, the ultimate purpose of all religions is one and perfect.
Okay. So, Vedavadarata, again continuing Vedavadarata. Yeah, somebody should start reading what is Vedavadarata.
But the Vedavadarata people, instead of realizing that the purpose of the Vedas is to revive the forgetful soul's lost relationships with the personality of Godhead, take it for granted that such sight issues as the attainment of heavenly pleasure for sense gratification, the lust for which causes their material bondage in the first place, are the ultimate end of the Vedas. Such people misguided others.
Okay, so Vedavadarata, what is their ultimate aim? To enjoy the heaven or to get the facilities on this planet. It means they are karma kandis. They are karma kandis. Vedavadarata means karma kandi. Okay.
Such people misguide others by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. Sometimes they even condemn the Puranas, which are authentic Vedic explanation for laymen.
Now the another point which we must note is that not only they are karam kandis and interested in heaven or sense enjoyment, but they are more dangerous because they misguide other people by misinterpreting Vedas. So this is more dangerous, that they misguide people. They don't know themselves and they misguide others. And sometimes they say Puranas are mythology. So they are more dangerous. Okay.
The Vedavadaratas give their own explanation of the Vedas, neglecting the authority of great teacher, Acharyas. They also tend to raise some unscrupulous person from among themselves and present him as leading exponent of the Vedic knowledge. Such Vedavada Rathas are especially condemned in the mantra by the very appropriate Sanskrit words Vidyayam Rataha. Vidyayam refers to the study of the Vedas because the Vedas are the origin of all knowledge, Vidya. And Rataha means those engaged. Vidyayam Rata thus means those engaged in the study of the Vedas. The so-called students of the Vedas are condemned herein because they are ignorant of the actual purpose of the Vedas on account of their disobeying the Acharyas. Such Vedavada Rathas search out meanings in every word of the Vedas to suit their own purposes. They do not know that the Vedic literature is a collection of extraordinary books that can be understood only through the chain of disciplic succession.
Okay, what now is said is Vedvat Rata, they don't have any parampara. Usually all this which is said here by Srila Prabhupada is discussing about the one sect very popular, it was very popular maybe 100 years back in India by name Arya Samaji. They were only doing yajna as a Veda. They were against deity worship, they were against Puranas. And their whole object was just some impersonal concept of the God, and that's all. So by that, at that time there was one, they made their own one person as the one who knows Vedas. Nobody else knows, he knows only Veda. But the all Acharya has a commentary on all the Vedas. So they don't even believe Shankaracharya. What do you speak of Madhvacharya and Ramanujacharya? So Prabhupada said they are not in parampara. They have no bona fide parampara. They claim themselves they are the Acharya of Veda. Now, next. Yes, next paragraph.
One must approach a bona fide spiritual master in order to understand the transcendental message of the Vedas. That is the direction of Mundaka Upanishad 1.2.12. These Vedavadarata people, however, have their own acharyas who are not in the chain of transcendental succession. Thus, they progress into the darkest region of the ignorance by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. They fall even further into the ignorance than those who have no knowledge of the Vedas at all.
It means they are more dangerous than those who are ignorant, because they are misguiding people. Now, the last paragraph is Maya Part Jnana, means demonic people, Asura. So before we read this paragraph, let us finish the couple more slides which are in our on the screen. Vedvat Rataha 5 to 8 paragraph. Gita, these verses quoted. Karma Kandis, they are Karma Kandis. Mistake side issue in Vedas as their ultimate purpose. Because Veda has two more Kand, Gyan Kand and Upasana Kand, which they don't know. And this is okay, they are misguided, no problem, they take the sidetracked. But they are more dangerous because they misguide people and misinterpret Vedas. Tato bhuya evate tamoho, therefore they go to the hell, to the ignorance. Now these are the verses which are quoted, and next slide are the verses 42 and 43. They are Vedvat Rataha in a Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's words. The unintelligent person absorbed in the praise of the Swarga offered in the Vedas, who propound that there is nothing higher than Swarga, attractively speak those superficially attractive words. See, all the major religion of the world, they are interested only in heaven and to enjoyment in the heaven. Filled with desire, thinking heaven as ultimate, the unintelligent speak many words concerning attainment of the power, enjoyment, bhog, aishwarya, gatim, prati, which gives fruits to their action in varnashram and high birth, janma, karma, phal, pradam. Now about impersonalists, you see, this is a good for your knowledge. You have this slide, impersonalists. There are two categories, Mayavadis, which are described in Bhagavad Gita 7:24, 9, 11 and 12. And they are offender to the form of the God. They do offense to the form of the God. They think God has a material form. But Brahmavadis, which are described in Bhagavad Gita 12:3, 4, 5, they are innocent. They don't know God, but no offense to the God, form of the God. An example of this group is 4 Kumaras. They were Brahmavadis. Sukdev Goswami was Brahmavadi. But then when he saw the God and then he understood the form of God, they become ecstatic. So this is the difference between the Mayavadi and Brahmavadi. Now the last paragraph which we are going to read now, and the theme of the last paragraph is Maya Paharta Jnana.
The Maya Paharta Jnana class of men are self-made gods. Such men think that they themselves are God and that there is no need of worshipping any other god. They will agree to worship an ordinary man if he happens to be rich, but they will never worship.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yes, continue.
But they will never worship the personality of Godhead. Such men, unable to recognize their own foolishness, never consider how it is that God can be entrapped by Maya, his own illusory energy. If God were ever entrapped by Maya, Maya would be more powerful than God. Such men say that God is all-powerful, but they do not consider that if he is all-powerful, there is no possibility of his being overpowered by Maya. These self-made gods cannot answer all these questions very clearly. They are simply satisfied to have become God themselves.
Okay, this is what is there in our last slide. Para number 9 says, Brahmavadis don't know about Bhagavan. Mayavadis imagine Bhagavan to be temporary manifestation of Brahm. Sanatan Dharma, God's personal descent, a unique born to the humanity, made into the unique banned by impostors. So last part is like the Gyanis would say that, well, God comes here and is covered by Maya. So how can God be covered by Maya? They cannot answer. So here our 9th mantra is over. Now we can see the question from question bank, and we should start the next mantra. What is your suggestion?
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, so Brahmavadis, are they similar to people who, who don't believe in God?
They don't know God. Their whole object is Brahm. They know, their object is Brahm. They don't know God, but they don't offend God.
But then Brahm comes from God, isn't it?
We believe that Brahma is a light which is coming from transcendental body of Supreme Lord. And Brahmavadi think that light is all in all, but they don't know actually the person God. But when the God appear on this planet, they don't offend him. They don't say that his body is made up of Maya. But they are more interested in Brahm than in personal God. But by the mercy of the God or a devotee, they can become devotee. But Mayavadi is very difficult.
So that means they believe in God, the Brahmavadis.
They believe in a Brahma aspect of God, but they are not offended to the avatar of God.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Prabhuji, I have question. प्रभु जो अपिचयन सुदराचार वचेतन माम जो antiseptic and prophetic is clear it.
Yes.
9 Bhagavad Gita 9:30-31 अपिचयन सुदराचार antiseptic.
Right.
So clear it, Prabhuji.
Is not clear?
No, sir.
Okay. Because he is attached. The word most important in this verse is apichet suduracharo bhajate ananya bhak is most important. Because he is connected in service with God. And since God is all pure and God is most powerful and free from all sin, therefore he will act as a prophylaxis for accidental fall down of a devotee. It is not the devotee's power, it is the power of purity of the God that he protects the devotee who is unflinching devotion, but accidentally, because when you read the purport of this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada writes two things. He said we have conditional and we have constitutional activity and conditional activity. So our constitutional activity is devotional service, which he is doing, Ananya Bhak. But conditional is with body, and we are conditioned, and because sometimes we do make mistakes. At a conditional level we make mistake, but at constitutional level we are attached to the Supreme by service. So that attachment is purifying, and Krishna, to a accident fall down, will protect and purify quickly and will not allow him to be infected by the material nature, because he is prophylaxis, he is apap vidham.
Prabhuji, sometimes practically we see that many devotees who are in touch with the Lord, I mean they are chanting from many years and they are even into deity services and many services, still they are not very purified, like we ourselves can see ourselves also. I mean, why is that when we say Krishna is all purifying, we are still not purified of our anarthas, still struggling with all these things?
Well, there's a difference now. What you said, word is anartha is different. There is a sin is different and anartha is different. When we start our devotional service, even sadhana bhakti, the sin are destroyed. But the aparad we can even comment during our sadhana. There is different than the sin.
We say bhakti can also remove the tendency to sin in future.
That also remove the tendency to sin, but there is accidental fall down. That is apichetat suduracharo. Unknowingly they do like that. I am just giving you not a very a specific example, but I am saying a very learned, transcendental, purified person, will he give bribe to some police for his personal release? It's a condemned act, right? But Sanatana Goswami paid the money to the jailer to get out. But why he got out? For enjoyment? No, he got out to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, nobody said that why he had done something wrong. Though it appears wrong, but it's not wrong. This is not accidental even. This is intentional, but it's not wrong. So sometime devotees, so I am not speaking on this commentary. One is a conservative commentary, which means devotee should never comment mistake. If he is a devotee, then how can he comment mistake? So it is like that sun can become cool, which is not possible. It is like Lakshmi can become beggar, which is not possible. So devotees cannot have fall down. That is the conservative commentary. The liberal is that even if they fall down, Krishna protect them. But they should not intentionally do the sin on the strength of their bhajan. The Rasik commentary is completely different. Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, Api Tetasa Duracharo is gopis. They are going to Krishna in the middle of the night, leaving their husband behind. They are Durachari, the worst Durachari. But the one who understands them, that they are sadhu. The one who understands Krishna's relation with gopis, he can quickly become sadhu and dharmatma. This is the highest Rasik commentary on this verse.
Prabhu, can I ask a question, Prabhu?
Yes.
Prabhu, here it says, it says Veda, Vada, Rata. That means those search for the meaning in every words of the Vedas and so to their own purpose. So that means even like, the Ritviks, they have misinterpreted the thing, says that, that's what their philosophy is. Are they fall into this Veda, Vada, Rata?
They are deviant from the Krishna conscious philosophy. They are not Vedavad Rata. They are not interpreting the Vishnu, Krishna is not God, Shiva is God. This is not, they are not doing. They are not saying about the heaven or something else. They are having a false concept of the Acharya. So they are not Vedvat Rata actually, because they are not interpreting the Prabhupada's book differently.
Another thing, are Shunyavadi and Nirakarvadis are the same as Brahmavadis?
No. Shunyavadi are the Buddhists. They say everything is zero. Nirakarvadis are the follower of Shankaracharya. And Brahmavadis are more qualified than the Nirakarvadis. Though they don't know about the personality of Godhead, but they are not offender.
So the Mayavadis are offenders in the form of law.
Yes. Mayavadi, Krishna Aparadhi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says.
No, like a few days ago I saw that Ratha Yatra festival in Puri, live telecast, and I saw that person in charge was Sankaracharya, what they call, from that Govardhan Mutt. He was the main person who got all these blessings and everything. So how we can interpret that, Prabhu?
They are spiritual. That is said, they are spiritual. We have to respect them because they have given up all worldly things. One is in Dwarka, one is in Jagannath Puri. All these Shankaracharyas are in all the. One is in Badrinath, where all the personal God is there. They establish these personal gods. But their followers, they worship, they do worship, but they still have more like impersonal is first and then by person. They think as a symbol, God as a symbol, not as a Swayam God. So these questions of question bank, somebody can read. There are five questions, 6 to 7. Explain the two ways the living entity is one with the Lord in the Vaishnava perspectives, including one analogy for each way in your explanation. Has somebody done this question? Number 1 was energy. Energy and energetic are one. Second was this same interest. Interest of the living entity and supreme is said, and one in interest. And there were two examples. One example is fire and the heat and light. That was for the energy and energetic. And what was the example for the what is called? For the to be having a one interest.
Sun.
All that this we have given sun, and this is for the energy and energetic. This was for Jiva Goswami for this concept. But what was that concept?
Example of the compass.
Compass.
Well, I gave the example of compass, but what is in Prabhupada's purport?
Eye in the sparks.
Ocean and a drop of water. A drop of water in the ocean.
Sorry, say again, Prabhu.
A drop of water in the ocean. And the ocean. The content is time.
Yeah, ocean, very nice. Drop and ocean, very nice. Same and quiet. This is the next. They are equal in quality, but not in quantity, right? Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So this is perfect. Now we are going to the next question. Give the meaning and a briefly explain the term anupashyati.
To follow the footsteps of the previous acharyas and to have to see from the vision of from their perspective.
And follow the parampara. Yeah, this is the whole word. Everybody must write something from that paragraph for this word, okay? How do the following devotees perceive the presence of the Lord, Kanishta, Madhyam and Uttam? How do the following devotees perceive the presence of the Lord? Kanishta Adhikari as a deity, Uttam Adhikari as a Swam Bhagavan. Madhyam Adhikari has also the same concept more or less, but they have faith in the scripture and they have knowledge of scripture and faith. That is the Uttam. The knowledge is less, but faith is also very good, is a Madhyam. No knowledge, less faith is a Kanishta. But Kanishta only see God, say deity is God. But imagine it, but the Uttam only sees his same God. Oh, what are the characteristics of those who imitate Uttam Adhikari? They are politicians, they think that we can make the people happy, but they are actually doing the no good work, because they are only saving the court, not the drowning men, not helping the soul, but helping the body by social work. There is in the last paragraph of this mantra. What is the essential difference between the vision of a universal brotherhood of a mundane welfare worker as compared to the Uttam Adhikari? Somebody has answered this question? Please, you have few days. When Sunday, Monday you have time, you finish these questions. In the end, it will not be easy really. You may confuse yourself. When we are completing this, do this. Essential difference.
The underlying common point that the Supreme Father, like everyone is the child of the same Supreme Father?
Actually, essential difference is that Uttamadhikari see the soul and super soul in all bodies, but they only see the outer covering of the body and they want to help that. But you read this portion and answer yourself today, that will be nice. Now today we have done the verse number 8. So I am going to verse number 8. How does the Lord supply the object of conditioned soul, living entities, desire? Include an analogy in your explanation. Today we have done. How does Lord, this is Yatha Tathata. Full paragraph we have read. Somebody can answer now? And which analogy we have discussed? Judge. High Court Judge analogy, yes.
High Court Judge.
And what is the, how does Lord supply? According to qualification. Qualification, and then according to the proportion to his qualification he provide them and fulfill their desire. And the one other example for your knowledge we have given, what is that example of Prahlad Maharaj? Why is the deity form of Lord is not material? Mantra 8. Archa Vigrah. Sorry?
The Lord's omnipotency, that he accepts service even the beginning.
Yeah, this is the concept of the Lord's omnipotency. Which word? Shukra.
Shukra.
Yeah, Shukra. He's a Shukra. Because he can turn the material energy into spiritual, spiritual into material. Like he incarnate Krishna and Ram, he can also incarnate as a deity. Drawing from the mantra 8, list in Sanskrit and describe any 4 characteristics of the Lord's transcendental form other than Satchit Anand. Yes? Apapa Viddham.
Shukram, Shuddham.
Yeah, Shukram, Apapa Viddham and
Asnavirnam.
Yeah, whatever you think and then give the example. Get 4 and give the example, okay? What is the value of understanding Lord has no veins? What does this mean?
The Lord has a spiritual body, not the
means,
body like our material body.
Okay. Write a summary overview of section 2, mantra 4 to 8. We gave this summary to you. You know, they summarize material things, spiritual vision, and going further, summary you have to give. Now verse 9 we have done today, but 10 we will do tomorrow, but I am just saying one question. What is the real knowledge and what is ignorance? We have done this.
Real knowledge is to understand that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything.
Yeah, but Isha Vasha principle is a real knowledge. And what is the ignorance?
To be ignorant of the Isha Vasha principle.
Yeah, just opposite to that. Describe any 5 or the 20 items of the... Okay, this will come tomorrow. What is the outcome of mundane education devoid of God consciousness we have done today? And then explain the analogy of decoration of dead body. This we have done today. You have all these questions?
Yes, Prabhu.
So please do it now. I think this is my request. Then afterward you will be in more difficulty. This is my humble request. Answer as much as you can. You ask me, get help, you make the group and discuss among self. This will keep you really refreshed in your knowledge. So here actually tomorrow we will start the mantra number 10 and 11. May not be the complete 11, but so we have done 7 days, 7 more classes we have, right? 7 more classes, and how many verses we have to go now? 9. 9 verses, 7 classes, okay? It's like a cricket match. We have how many balls and how many runs we need. Anybody, I can see that we have just freshly read, but you are not able to recollect and answer. Why? I want this batch should be really one of the most good outstanding batch of the VIHE. Please make little endeavor.
Yes, Prabhu.
Is it all right? We have done the verse number 8 and 9 today. Tomorrow
Yes.
this 9 to 12 is this section. So I think maybe next week we'll be able to complete this section. And next week we have to complete the whole section of the Isha Upanishad. Next week there are 5 classes to finish.
Maybe the answers, should we answer it in a conservative way or liberal way? That's sometimes that confuses.
Basically, you are expected to answer from the purport itself.
Okay.
If one word is usually actually a tricky word is one. If you find that one word in purport, then you write one word, you will get full marks. You may write one page and you miss that one word, then it's useless.
I see. All right.
So answer should be focused on the purpose.
Okay.
And in slides we have given you something more just for your understanding, which may not be needed in your answer. The one who has done these slides, he is teaching 40 hours rather than 28 hours which we are doing. So he's repeating a lot of things.
I did some answers, but after that when I referred to the slide, that small answer became 1 or 2 pages.
Well, that is because that is for your knowledge, but it's not needed for your answer, because your answer time is limited. It should be 4, 5, 6 lines, that's all.
Okay.
The slides is for your understanding. And slides are giving you the insight that what is in one para. This para, which subject is of this para. As you read the para, you will not find subject on your own. So anybody else has anything to comment, or we close here?
Before you say the answer, we just write 5 or 6 sentences, yeah?
Generally, because you have answered the limit, they may ask you, but you see how many marks are on each question and do it according. Sometimes only they ask what is the Sanskrit word and what is the meaning. Then you can just write exact meaning and some example. It's no need to repeat something and elaborate unnecessarily. If your understanding is clear, write 2 words correct, that's okay.
Okay.
Like for the 2 ways how the soul is one with the God, you say as a energy and energetic, no difference. Give the example of sun and light, fire and light, and you give the quality they are one and quantity they are not one. The drop and ocean, it's finished. Your question is complete. The answer is complete.
Refer to Bhagavad Gita? No.
But then you have time, you can say that there is also oneness of interest, the oneness of service. So that you can add, but they are asking too, why you write more? This is also intelligence that answer what is asked. But you know it's not necessary to answer all. Answer what is asked for. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
See you tomorrow. Hari Om.